Hi, I'm Eddie Rodriguez, and you're watching A Headshot.
I guess I've always seen myself in the role of other controversial documentary filmmakers. Morris, Moore, Finkelstein. When the phenomenon of toilet stall graffiti first came to me, I was on a road trip researching the science behind psychic pets. I needed to pull over and use a public restroom. Made my way in, much to my surprise. At first I didn't know what to think about what had just happened, until I looked down to see what he'd been writing, and it simply said, Jon was here.
What do you get when you combine toilet graffiti, a first-time writer and director, and a whole slew of talented cast and crew? You get Jon Wuz Here. Today with us in the studio is Jon Wuz Here director and writer, Eddie Rodriguez. Welcome, Eddie.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. So Jon Wuz Here is a really funny short. I first saw it at Alamo Draft House back last year, and then it was a selection for a Houston Comedy Film Festival. And so tell me a little bit about, I know that Jon Wuz Here was your first project as a writer and as a director, which I think is really encouraging to people who have an idea, they have a project that they want to bring to life. And tell me a little bit about what you were doing before you did Jon Wuz Here. I know that you were in the industry, but I think a little different part of it. And what was your inspiration?
It all kind of just landed in my lap. I was working on a feature film as a key set PA, where I met Carlos Tovar, who ended up being my executive producer, and we saw something written on a porta potty, and it led to this ridiculous conversation. And I always had aspirations of directing someday, but what I learned was nobody really just gives you that chance. So if you really want it, you kind of have to create the situation. So after a couple more conversations, just kind of joking about this whole strange thing about people writing things in bathrooms, Jon was here. I met Deke Anderson on the same set, and it kind of just landed on me. This guy could be my lead actor. And so
Bill Norwell. And who is Deke, for the people in the audience who don't know who Deke Anderson is?
Deke Anderson's, he's probably been acting for 30 plus years. He has his own acting studio here in Houston called Next Level Acting Studios. He's been in a broad variety of films.
He was in Green Lantern with a supporting role here.
He's coming up in Green Lantern as playing a general, and he was Bruce Campbell's double in the infamous Army of Darkness. Mm-hmm. And he's done a couple other shows with him, and he did General Hospital back in the day, an episode of Cheers back in the day.
He was in Days of Our Lives.
Days of Our Lives. So it's like he just came. He was a blessing because he was a very experienced actor, but he also took a lot of faith in the idea. And it was one of those moments where before anything was written on paper, before I had no clarity of what the script would be, I simply told him an idea that I had. And based on that, he said, if you write it, I'll read it. And it took some time developing it, but when the script was ready, it was definitely something written for him.
Right.
And in retrospect, it's kind of a peculiar thing because I never really doubted his involvement, which is very naive because I hadn't seen him in quite some time when he finally got the script.
It worked for you, though.
It did pay off. So sometimes that initial instinct, I would encourage people to write for talent if they do have a talent in mind. At least it helped me in the process because I always had a face to put to this character. You start fleshing out and you start understanding what this character can be about, what the potential is.
Inspiration.
And yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And he brought a lot to the table. I really learned in this process how much I like to work with actors. And what I'm looking for in performance and in content is a script is really just a template to start from. Mm-hmm. What should happen on camera is kind of like lightning in a bottle. It's just bringing these components together, and you want the best from all these components, but you want to give enough room for that to breathe. So you really never know what you're going to end up with. The end result of Jon Wuz Here, I was very happy with, but going into it, it was a different thing. I knew it had potential to be funny, but you don't know how it's going to come together until you're done, and of course you panic along the way.
Well, you say that it fell into your lap, but I beg to differ. Because I think, you've got to, you came across some good luck, but you were working as a PA, correct? On, what film was it?
It was Cook County.
Cook County. And you had the guts to go up to an actor on set and say, hey, I've got this idea. and the guts to go up to Carlos and present it to him. So it sounds like it was a collaboration that just brought together a really dynamic group of people.
Well, it's strange. You always think, you always have all these ideas in the back of your mind. You're like, if I get the chance, this is what I would like to tell. And in the context of this silly thing, it was him that brought it to my attention that it would probably make for a very funny short. Mm-hmm. And that led to me just asking him, if I write this thing, you give me the chance to direct it if you produce it. And he said, sure. So when someone opens that door for you, you're like, okay, this is on me. This is what I need to bring to it. And I'm a bit of a schizophrenic person when it comes to ideas. So it was nice with Carlos. There was a little bit of stability and a little bit of focus.
Tone you down a little bit.
Settle me down a little bit, but also he got behind it.
Right.
And he was already friends with Deke. So late in that production, we all were eating crew lunch. I just happened to be sitting there with Deke, and I literally just watched his mannerisms and the way he was carrying himself. And I suddenly had this very concrete moment of, this is your protagonist.
Right.
If you make this your protagonist, then you're 50% there. Then it's just giving him the ammunition to do what you wanted him to do.
Well, and I had a conversation with him before, and he said that you had given him the script, and he was on the treadmill working out, reading it, just laughing out loud, and the people around him were, what's that guy reading? And so it sounds like, he saw the potential in it from the very beginning. So obviously Deke came on board. You felt like, and Carlos, that you felt like that was a big asset to you. With Deke running Next Level Acting Studios, did that play kind of an incremental role with casting? Because you have a phenomenal cast. I mean, you have Nina Leon. She was the wife on Machete. There's so many actors. Shelley Black.
The two actors that I specifically wrote for was Deke Anderson and Ben Whittier. And those characters came to be based on my relationship with those people. Mm-hmm. So it was like tailor-made parts, but I always saw them involved. All the peripheral characters, I had no clue who I was going for. It was Deke that stepped up and made the suggestion of, he literally just started showing me headshots and telling me, I believe this person would be good for this part, this part, this part, mm-hmm. this part. And as things escalated, I ended up with much more resources than I ever thought. I had a much larger crew than I thought I would have, and before I knew it, I had 3.5 days to just bust this thing out. So a big part of it was, okay, I'm going to go on faith. These are people that definitely have an amazing resume. Mm-hmm. I knew they had gone through Deke Anderson's course. So
trust each person you hire to do their job that they were intended to do.
Absolutely. And they were enthusiastic about getting involved. Once you have that level of enthusiasm, I really do feel you got to go with it. If it's hard enough to get somebody to believe in you on any level. So when these people start stepping up and they're willing to come prepared, and they knew the script, Deke had kind of used the script in his course, which I didn't know about till after the fact. And when you hear things like that, you're like, wow, this is someone that really believes in what you're doing.
Right.
And if I give them the chance to do what they do well, and I don't know what the hell I'm doing, let's see what happens.
I'd say that if you didn't know what the heck you were doing before, you definitely have a lot more insight now. A shout out to Chase Reese. He was your editor. He won Best Editor for Jon Wuz Here at the Houston Comedy Film Festival, and there was a short there that you guys were up against that just won an Academy Award. Yeah, God of Love.
Yeah. So that was nice to be in that company.
Absolutely, and to win Best Editor, Chase is just amazing, and what he did with Jon Wuz Here, I think it's phenomenal. Was he your DP as well?
That was another moment of kismet. The hurricane came to Houston, and we were scheduled to shoot out. And we got pushed by 2 weeks, and he and his business partner, Josh Dallera, were just getting their red package. And they expressed interest in coming in. Before I knew it, I had 2 units, and we had such a tight schedule that with the help involved, I was able to kind of set these guys free and literally just told them, look, just read the script, spread your wings, surprise me, but this is what I'm looking for. And they knocked it out of the park. They interpreted it in a great way. But it was nice to know that it didn't need to be micromanaged, but it was also their opportunity to just flex their muscles. After the fact in post, Chase had grown as an editor, and he had just done some phenomenal work. A lot of this is about chemistry. If you have good rapport with your talent, with your producer, with your crew, with post, everything goes smooth because it becomes fun at that moment. And let's face it, there's a much easier way to make a living than this business. So if you're not enthusiastic behind it, and if you're not having a good time on some level, in spite of the hard work, in spite of pulling your hair out, it wouldn't be worth it. going into the edit bay with Chase was really exciting those first few days.
Well, I think with anything, whether it's an editor or an actor, a producer, whoever it is on a set, there's so many talented people out there. So a key is to find somebody who's got a good attitude in addition to being talented at what they do. So I think that's neat.
Sure.
So you've already been at a film festival. You have a couple of other film festivals that you have coming up. You have a Topsy TV. And so where do you want to go? Was this kind of like a launching pad for what you want to do with Topsy TV?
Well, it was, like I said, I had this appreciation for all kinds of films. And the last thing I think I ever thought would be my first thing would be a comedy. But the challenge was if I could write something, co-produce and direct something, and on top of it being a comedy, if I could pull that off, I really felt I could do anything else, because I genuinely believe comedy is the hardest thing to accomplish. It's a very underrated form.
Comedic timing.
It's just everything. You need good talent, good writing. You do need that timing on a performance level, but then even in the post side of things, you need somebody that understands that. So I'm proud that it came together. It didn't happen overnight. I don't want people to think that this was done over a weekend. It did take some time, but it's paid off in the long run, because I'd rather have a good product at the end of the day. And it's a good feeling to get people to laugh. It's a very rewarding thing. So,
what are your future plans? What's the next step for Eddie Rodriguez?
We're developing several scripts. I'm currently working on another one that should be a comedy, probably a little bit more drama involved. There's an action sci-fi thing that me and Carlos are also developing. I won't be so much involved on the writing side of that, but I'd like to get as many of these things in motion as possible. There's also a documentary that I'd like to work on here later in the year, and really just round out what Topsy TV can be all about. We haven't officially launched just yet, but these are the projects that we'd like to be involved with, and we'd like to be known for being the guys that can put things together. And honestly, I'd like to meet more talent out there. I'd like to meet more writers. And
I'm sure they would like to meet you, especially after seeing Jon Wuz Here. So tell us, where can people find you, find out more information? Are you on Facebook? Do you have a place that people can connect with you if they want to reach out to you?
You can always find me on Facebook. Just look up Eddie Rodriguez. There's also a Jon Wuz Here page there as well.
So they can probably, if they can't find a ton of Eddie Rodriguez has come up, they can go to Jon Wuz Here, which is JON
WZHERE.
Yeah.
And there's also jonwuzhere.com. So if they want to check the official page for the short, that's there as well. So
everybody check it out. Jon Wuz Here, Eddie Rodriguez. Thank you so much for joining today.
Thank you for having me. This was a lot of fun.